Everyone, and welcome to ALZ Talk, a conversation series from the Alzheimer's Associations. Today's conversation is focused on brain health, and thank you for joining us. We're going to have a practical, down-to-earth conversation about how everyday choices, the things that we already do or could do a little more differently, can support our brain health at any age. When we're talking about brain health, you do not need to be perfect. You do not need to change everything all at once, and you do not need to live at the gym. If that were the case, I would not be hosting this conversation. My name is Juan Gabriel Rodriguez. I'm a senior specialist in public health at the Alzheimer's Association, and I'm really glad to be sharing this space with all of you. ALZ webinars provide education, information, news, and resources on a variety of dementia and caregiving topics. This webinar is supported by Lantheus and is organized and arranged by us here at the Alzheimer's Association. Today, I'm joined by two wonderful guests. First, we have Dr. Adriana Perez, a clinical expert whose work focuses on health, aging, and brain health across the lifespan. And we have Michelle Pichardo, a community educator and caregiver who works closely with individuals and families navigating brain health in real life. Dr. Perez and Michelle, thank you both so much for being here today. My first two questions are for you, Dr. Perez. Why is brain health important at every stage of life, not just as we get older?
Thank you for that one. And thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here with you, Michelle, and really appreciative of the Alzheimer's Association bringing these very important conversations. In many cultures, talking about brain health could sometimes be a taboo. Thank you for bringing the conversation to real life. As you said, brain health is important throughout our lifespan. In fact, when an embryo is being created, the brain is being developed. So maternal health is very important to the development of a child as they're born and as they continue to grow. Not just as we age, from the time we experience childhood, so sleeping, eating, any disruption in the environment that a child experiences, even as they continue to grow, can have detrimental effects to their brain health. And therefore, when we get older, we need to continue to ensure that we are promoting brain health just as we do other organs, just as we do heart health. I like to say, because we're talking about brain health, that everything that's good for the heart is good for the brain. That includes thinking about our interactions, not just exercising our physical health, but also exercising our brain health through stimulus, through talking, through different kinds of activities that people like to do where you're required to think. I know all the activities for older people, and they share things like crossword puzzles, being able to engage in storytelling. Maintaining that kind of engagement throughout our life at every stage is important to the development and the preservation of our memory health.
And so it seems like our brain health is something that we should all be thinking across our lifespan.
This is a promising area of research and clinical practice that there's a lot of focus on because we haven't been as holistic. Most treatments for brain health have focused on drugs, and that's good, but we really need to look at us holistically as human beings in the neighborhood, in the world where we live.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. So I know that we all sit around and watch the news or are always seeing all these things that we could be doing for our overall health. But for anyone following along, we do have a very nice list of 10 healthy habits that anyone can do at any point. These are just the 10 habits with the strongest amount of evidence. If anyone interested in following along, we'll tag that resource in the video description. Michelle, from your experience working with people and families, when do folks usually start paying attention to brain health? When are you seeing people in your community pay attention?
Unfortunately, Juan, right now, people are not really paying much attention to brain health. It's something that, I'm constantly telling people in community, we need to be paying more attention to our brain health. Right now, society is thinking of brain health as a response factor. After a loved one starts to experience some behavioral changes, maybe some memory loss, then the family begins to think about brain health holistically. Sometimes as caregivers, or if people are starting to retire, they start to think about their whole body and scheduling more doctor's appointments and checking in. Most people wish they had started thinking about their brain health earlier. When I think about those 10 healthy habits that we have an education program that goes over those 10 healthy habits. I find myself and our volunteers hosting those education programs for people of all ages. Sometimes we're hosting it in college classrooms for 20-year-olds. Sometimes we're hosting it for corporate companies, for staff in the workplace today. You're saying 20 to 65, 67-year-olds, and it's affecting everyone. The importance of brain health applies to us at any age. there is some growing interest in prevention, and we need people to be more proactive versus reactive when it comes to brain health. It's never too late to start caring about your brain health, but there's things that we can do regardless of our age.
Yeah, thinking about myself, I don't usually think about my brain health until something feels off. When I'm trying to remember a password, now our computers remember all of our passwords and I can't remember something. That's when I started thinking about my brain health. Or another example, my partner was riding his bicycle to work and was hit by a car and he wasn't wearing a helmet. So we
Oh my
immediately,
God.
of course, thought about concussions, brain health. And so it's just something that we should all be thinking about proactively, you're saying. So when we are talking about these things we can do, before we get started into other examples, I want to briefly mention the US Pointer, a national study led by the Alzheimer's Association. It looked at whether combining physical activity, healthy eating, cognitive engagement, and regular health monitoring could help support memory and thinking in adults at increased risk for cognitive decline. And thanks to this study, we have evidence that healthy behaviors have that powerful impact on brain health. And we'll touch on these themes throughout today's conversation. In terms of those first things that we're going to talk about, Dr. Perez, what kinds of everyday movement actually support brain health from your experience?
Well, I can share too within the context. We just went through COVID. We have been continuing to come back to our regular, normal lives. And something that I've seen, which is why I want to emphasize it here, is that even the small walks for me from home to my office, it's about a 12-minute walk. You think that's not enough, but it builds over time. And on average, there are studies that show Americans gained about 20 pounds during COVID because even those small amounts of physical activity throughout the day make a difference. All that to say that every step counts, whether it's small steps during the day. We do have to listen to our body. Because I work with older adults, it doesn't have to be as strenuous. We have to listen to what our body can do, beginning with small steps. If you're someone who is mostly sitting down most of the day, getting up. Technology has helped us, but it also prevents us from being active. We're all used to everything at our fingertips. But getting up, if you're someone who works all day sitting down, making sure that you integrate every hour to hour and a half, at least 10, 15 minutes of a walk during your break. Getting up and walking when you're watching something on television during breaks. It's those kinds of daily activities that I want to promote, because they do make a difference. And then, of course, the more you're able to do, if you're able to structure 30-minute walks per day, or being in the yard, or dancing, or whatever activity makes your heart beat faster, that's the kind of activity we want. We want you to be able to sweat a little, feel your heart race, but also be able to talk. That's how we measure moderate intensity physical activity. And that tells us that our heart is having to work a little faster. And that's the kind of activity we want to build up to for our brain health.
The one piece that I'm getting from is that we have to get our heart pumping in order for it to be considered moderate activity. One example of something I've been trying to do is I live in a high rise and sometimes there's a very long elevator line, and I do work from home, necessarily get a lot of exercise unless I'm purposely going downstairs to the gym. But something I started to do every day is if I notice there's a long line, I will walk up the stairs all the way to the 18th floor. At first, I could only do 3 flights of stairs. And now after a year of doing it every day, I now can walk up all the 18 floors. It's something that I've built into a daily habit. Michelle, my next question is for you. I've heard you talk about your grandmother and how she fits in exercise. What are some ways you notice your loved ones or people in your community get movement and that they don't always think counts?
That's a great question, Juan. So for me, anytime I find myself presenting our education program that is on brain health and healthy habits, I'm always asking people in the audience, how many of you have a dog? 2 to 12 people raise their hands, and I will say to them, having a dog is like undercover exercise. Your dog has to go outside. When you get home from work this evening, take your dog outside for a walk. The dog has to go outside, have to go potty, take one more lap around the neighborhood. It's not for you, it's for the dog. The dog's been cooped up inside the house all day. They need fresh air and movement. So let's be selfless and get some more steps in for the dog. Walking while running errands is a really easy one. One that I personally love is walking while talking on the phone. So my best friend lives out of state now, so I will put on my AirPods and headphones, step outside and give her a call. I get to socialize and catch up with her, but I'm also moving my body, getting my heart rate up and trying to hold a conversation like Dr. Price just said while I'm walking. So it's good for my physical health, social health, and mental health. kind of does 3-in-1 there. For my grandma, she's now 96. Exercise for her looks very different than it does for the three of us, right? There are things that she's no longer able to do independently as she's living with dementia, but there are still things that she can do. How to apply them to people across the lifespan. It's thinking of things that we can still do based on our bodies. We know our own bodies better than anyone. I can't take her to a gym anymore. She's now using a walker, so even having her walk outside alone could be a little bit dangerous. Her walker could get stuck on the grass or the sidewalk. In the evenings, after her evening nap, she has this machine in her room that she puts at her feet. She sits in a comfy chair and uses this machine to pedal. And so that is a modified version of exercise that she can still do safely and independently at 96 years old, but helps her get her blood flow moving to get more blood flow up to her brain.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos of those walking paths people have underneath their desk. I don't know if that's for me. I can't pay attention to too many things at once, but that's a great example that you shared. Dr. Perez, I know that a lot of people have opinion about food and sleep, but how do eating patterns and sleep support our brain health from your experience?
Like you said, the 10 recommendations all build on each other. And what I like about physical activity is that the more activity you do during the day helps you sleep better. The recommendation for all of us is 150 minutes of physical activity in 7 days. That's like I say, the recipe or the prescription when I'm talking to patients. So being active during the day helps us get a better sleep pattern. It's really about the pattern of our sleep too. On average, we should be sleeping about 6-7 hours, but you also need good sleep. There are dimensions of sleep that we measure, and one of them is sleep efficiency. Do you sleep despite the hours? Do you feel like you wake up and you don't feel rested? You feel like you just went to sleep, or you woke up a lot during the night? Especially with older adults, it's often their difficulty to sleep, stay asleep, or fall asleep that they come in to be seen for. And they find out they're having memory changes, memory problems. So we have to pay attention to that. That connection is very strong. And so we're seeing a lot more interventions, programming that promote physical activity during the day. And then that way we develop a regular sleeping habit that we go to sleep and we wake up at the same time every day. That's having a normal sleep pattern. I teach college students, so for them too, that's a challenge because many stay up all night. I don't know if you guys did that when you were in college, but you pull up all-nighters. I know we've all done that. It turns out it's not good for brain health because the brain doesn't preserve, the sleep that it needs. In other words, you can't sleep all weekend and preserve your sleep from during the week. Getting into a normal sleeping pattern helps our brain function during the day, make better decisions, do better in school, in college as well, in our work. In terms of diet, I really like to focus on the heart, controlling sodium intake, which is very difficult to do because it's not just about the table salt. Sodium is hidden in a lot of foods that we don't even think about. A lot of our diet has enough sodium for us for the whole day, but many people still add sodium to their diet. That's a big one. That affects our blood pressure, which also affects our brain health. There are things that are good for us in terms of brain health. There's more research on the Mediterranean diet, the eating more healthy oils, healthy fats, fish, less, red meat. I was just going through this conversation Monday with my mom. She had her primary care follow-up and her cholesterol's creeping up. Her blood pressure is good now, but she's been taking medication since she was a young woman. I remind her, like, Mom, all these things go together. And she gets disappointed because, like all of us, we do everything we can to control these things, but then you're still a little bit borderline. That means if it weren't for your efforts, you would be high, you would be very abnormal. So because of your efforts, you're still being controlled. Some of the things we experience, we can't control, and that's our genetic composition, what we inherit from our families. So yes, I hope that's helpful, in thinking about how I talk about these things with not just patients, but my own family members.
Yeah. Dr. Perez, what I think is so interesting is when you mentioned 150 minutes in 7 days, I did the math, and that's 21 minutes per day. Thinking back to what we can control, 21 minutes a day is not that much. I think we can all commit to 21 minutes of exercise that will help us build a better habit.
Yes. And Michelle, the benefits of physical activity, in addition to our brain, our heart, our weight, it also improves our mood. And there are times where, seriously, that's the benefit that I see right away is I'm feeling down. There's so much going on in our world. We are so busy. But to take, like you said, 21 minutes, not only does it help my health overall, but I feel it improves my mental health, my mood, and then I get back into work. It gives me that little extra boost.
Yeah.
Those 21 minutes, I spent a lot more time on TikTok and on social media.
There you go.
So maybe I should do those things while I'm trying to be physically active.
Exactly.
And Michelle, this brings up my next question. Speaking about how busy we are, from people juggling work, family, and everything else, what are some realistic ways to make small changes without feeling overwhelmed? Because I feel when I hear health advice, I don't have time to do these things in addition, or I'm already doing all these other things. How do I cram these in? So Michelle, what are some realistic ways to make small changes without feeling overwhelmed that you've seen people in your family or community do?
So for me, you'll see me drink a lot of water. I keep a water container at my desk. I'm constantly trying to stay hydrated. But another one that really helps me is bringing lunch to work. Last night for dinner, I cooked minestrone soup. Today, my lunch is also going to be minestrone soup. I added a can of kidney beans, zucchini, carrot, celery, onion, garlic, things I already had in the fridge at home. Trying to focus on eating more vegetables and adding more vegetables and fiber to my diet. In community where I'm hosting programs, I'm constantly sharing with people. Typically in the US, we're not eating, when we think about breakfast, it's quick to think of donuts or muffins or pancakes and bacon, maybe focusing on protein and starting the day off on the right foot. So 2 hard-boiled eggs or a piece of sourdough toast with avocado and an egg on top. Maybe having a yogurt with some fruit instead, something that's going to be a little bit better for our bodies to get going. Another thing that I do pretty regularly is I bring an apple to work every day. I have that apple sitting on my desk at the office. And in the afternoon, between 2 and 4 o'clock, when I get hungry, maybe I'm craving something crunchy, I'm dreaming of chips, but if I have that apple sitting at my desk, I'm much more likely to get up and slice that apple and have an apple as a snack. Sometimes I even bring extra apples to work and I end up slicing up 2 or 3 of them and I'm sharing and feeding apples for everyone here at the office. So that's a fun thing that I do. Sleep is also really important, encouraging people in our communities to prioritize their sleep habits. For me, it's building a nighttime routine and committing to getting into bed by 10 o'clock at night. I might not fall asleep right away, and that's okay. Instead of scrolling on Instagram or TikTok, I set my alarms for the next morning, I plug it into charge, and I put the phone on the nightstand. I don't reach for the phone anymore. I now grab a book. I leave a book on my nightstand and I grab the book instead. Sometimes I fall asleep holding the book, and that's better than scrolling aimlessly to help me get better sleep.
Yeah, those are really great ideas, especially because we spend so much time at work. Incorporating some of these habits during your workday is something that if you have the ability to do so, it is smart. And when you're mentioning about scrolling before bedtime, so we just recently got new furniture and I purposely made sure my nightstand was a little further away from my bed. So my charger is on the other side. So I have to physically get up to reach for it. I think that's really helped improve the amount of sleep because that's something that personally keeps me up at night. I know technology is such a great help, but it also hinders us in being able to disconnect and get the amount of sleep that we want. Speaking about our minds, Dr. Perez, my next question is for you. We've heard a lot about challenging our mind. So why is challenging the mind such an important part of brain health?
Since early childhood, lifelong learning is a way to challenge our brain. Whenever we learn, whether it's a new dance, a new song, or many of the elders in our practice do, they love games, crossword puzzles, things where they're interacting with other people. That keeps us sharp. That keeps us thinking. And it really is exercise for the brain and the same effects on the brain that we are continuing to develop the health of our brain over time. Unfortunately, I sometimes think when I ask older people what kind of advice they would give younger people or their younger selves, they would say, if you don't use it, you lose it. To your point earlier, Juan, when you were saying take the stairs, they tell me that all the time. If I could take the stairs, I would do that. Similarly, our brain, if we're not pushing ourselves, whether it's through academic or professional journeys, the goals that we set for ourselves, things we want to learn, that's important. We have things we're comfortable doing, but it's also good to try new things and push our brain to think of new ways of doing things. I think that's a great recipe for all of us to remember as we continue to age. Not everybody gets to live to be 75, 80. I say that you're blessed if you do. I think we all should think of ourselves as aging. We're aging every day, and we're lucky if we get to be that age.
I was thinking about, I recently graduated from my graduate program last year, and ever since I stopped doing school,
Congratulations.
I have not picked up a book for pleasure in a long time. When I was done with school, I don't want to learn any new things, but this is a great reminder for me, for sure.
For pleasure, the things you want to read, not you have to read for school.
So, Michelle, my next question is for you. What would you say to someone who hears challenging your brain and thinks, yeah, that's not for me? For example, I'm done with school. What would you say to someone that says that?
Learning looks different for everyone. If it's your turn to cook dinner, what are you making? Maybe instead of scrolling through Instagram or TikTok, you're searching for a new recipe and cooking something new. That could be a new challenge. So a couple weeks ago, I took a Mahjong lesson for the first time because I wanted to try something new. So I went out locally, I found a group hosting lessons, and I took a 2-hour lesson. That was something new that I'd never done before. That was a fun new challenge for my brain. There's a lot of ways that we can learn new things without making them seem overwhelming or too hard or challenging. Something I also enjoy doing is having game nights with friends, playing new board games, add a new board game to the mix, stop at Target or Amazon or have a friend bring a new game. Learning those new games and doing them in a fun setting really helps our brain. Curiosity matters more than skill. So get out of your comfort zone, try something new, try it once. If you hate it, it's okay. You don't have to do it again. But learning new things does really help our brains.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I feel from our conversation today, a lot of what I'm getting is that our brain health is complex and it encompasses many different aspects of our lives and health. A lot of factors affect how our brain works over time. The good news from this conversation is that getting good quality sleep, staying socially connected, and continuing to challenge our minds build on what we've shared earlier about the US pointer. And my next question is for you, Dr. Perez. How can we connect all of these dots? Why does it matter to work on more than one brain healthy habit instead of just focusing on one? Because I feel we have all of these different habits, but it seems it's not just one particular habit that's good for us. It's that combination. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
The things we're talking about, the lifestyle habits, as we say, they all work together. And when you use all of them and build them into your everyday life, it's sort of like building that reserve that your brain needs, your heart needs, all of your vital organs. They complement each other. Think about it as you might need to take medication for your blood pressure, but also if you did these other things, they would support your treatment plan. They would complement your treatment plan and work to enforce the things that you need to do anyways. So yeah, there's no one is better. I think in combination, eating well, sleeping well, being active, those things can really sustain us over time and they enhance any other kind of medical treatment. It can be overwhelming if you're someone who needs to think about many changes in your life. And I see this with patients, newly diagnosed diabetic patients, even those that are diagnosed with high blood pressure. You could see that in a younger person. It's overwhelming to think that every day you have to take a medication no matter what. And so when you think about these healthy habits, what we're talking about today, it's important to think about small steps to get you to your end goal. So if our end goal is to have 150 minutes per week of physical activity, you can start with 5 minutes. So think about the things you could do this week, even this day. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when people ask me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I am thinking week by week, right? So the same thing with these goals. Think about what you could do this week and then build on that. It's balancing over perfection. You don't have to do all of the things all of the time, but pick one or two that you could start with and then continue to build on that. I think that's a way to prevent us from feeling overwhelmed and paralyzed that you cannot do any of those things. Think what could be realistic for your life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so I think this is a perfect segue. A lot of folks are going to have the questions like, where do I start? And so that is exactly why us here at the Alzheimer's Association created the Brain Health Habit Builder. It's a really great tool that we've created to help people at least have a place to start. Dr. Perez, speaking about this builder tool that we have, how do you see a simple tool like the Brain Health Habit Builder being helpful for people?
It does give you a very structured way of thinking about goals. Your reason why. What I've seen that could be very powerful is that each one of us, we might share the same language, the same culture, some similar experiences, but we are all individuals in our own right, unique, and bring our own unique talents and skills to our everyday life. So we all have a reason for doing, in this case, physical activity or thinking about our brain health. For me, it's seeing that in my family, we have a history of high blood pressure, especially with the women in my family from a very young age. All of the women in my family, my mom, her sisters worked in the farm field. So they were very active since early on. It was also very stressful, and they all to this day take blood pressure medication. So I know that's a risk for me, and I've seen what it has caused my family, my mom, my aunts. I want to prevent that, and that motivates me a lot. I think each one of us, as we begin this work, if it's a change that you need to make, think about what's the most important thing in your life and why you want to be healthy and have a memory until your later ages. Older patients tell me all the time, they might not have a fortune, they might not have a ton of possessions, but the memories that they have built over time are so important. And that often is enough of a motivator to get people up and active if they know that they can preserve their brain function as they get older. Encourage people to reflect on what's important, thinking realistically about what your body can do. If you can only start with 5 minutes, that's great. And every week, maybe add a minute or two. Take it one step at a time with these changes because you want them to last forever. When you try to do too many things at once, not only do you give up, but then you say, this is not for me. It's just a matter of starting little by little and building support around you. Just talking to you and Michelle today makes me feel like a lot of us are doing the best we can. And sharing with your friends, your family, with these little things that you do, you begin to connect and form the social support that is also a protector to our health. So want to encourage all of us to stay connected and sharing our little gains and wins along the way.
Yeah, speaking about our builder tool, one of the first things I realized when using the tool was that there's a lot of questions that I hadn't really thought about in a long time. Am I actually getting enough sleep? When was the last time I checked my blood pressure? My next question is for you, Michelle. When you used the Habit Builder tool, what stood out to you and how do folks in your community have been using this tool?
The brain habit builder tool that we have at the association, I actually really liked because it was really quick and easy to use. It probably takes about 5 to 7 minutes. And it's not a test. It's a simple questionnaire that you take online on our website. One of the things that I also really liked was that it highlighted strengths. For me, as it was asking me questions, it was asking about eating habits. I make it a priority to have more protein every day, to eat more vegetables and have more fiber in my diet, have an apple every day, bring a side salad to lunch or dinner. But it did identify the areas in which I personally needed to focus. In being vulnerable for a minute, the two that came out for me that I really need to focus on were consistently getting 7+ hours of sleep every night and then doing more exercise. So now I'm making it a priority. When I finished the Brain Health Habit Builder, you can download the page of your results. I took that page and I pinned it to my wall here at the office. I get to look at it every day and therefore make more choices and make it top of mind to put more intention into what I do after work and how I am taking care of my brain health.
Yeah, so Michelle, how did the Habit Builder help you think differently about setting goals?
It became smaller, doable steps that I can break down. It's like that saying of how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. Breaking down those small goals so that they are easier to do and more manageable, and it's not as scary. We're not encouraging people or asking people to run a marathon or to sign up for that marathon tomorrow, right? It's committing to those 20 minutes of daily exercise a day. So for me today, I don't necessarily feel like going to the gym, but I am committed to going to the gym. I packed my gym bag today, left the house to come to the office. If I don't have as much energy when I get to the gym tonight, I will sit on a bike. Some nights I'm going home and Netflix, of course, is always there. We're watching TV casually in the evenings, but instead what I'll do tonight is hop on a bike for 45 minutes. And then I can watch that same Netflix episode while I'm on the bike at the gym to be a little bit more productive. So it's baby steps.
Dr. Perez, why are planning and goal setting so important when it comes to behavior change?
The thing I like about writing your goals or typing your goals is that process is actually a brain exercise. I don't know about you, but I'm a visual person. If I see it, it helps me remember, and it's a goal that is there front and center. So I often write my goals on my phone in my notes section, and they remind me of what I said I was going to do. Writing goals is helpful because it keeps us accountable for what we said, or it reminds us of what we said. Over time, you can also change your goal. If something happens, Juan, you mentioned your partner having a bike accident, obviously that the goals for activity are going to change. If something's happened, you're sick, you have the flu that's going around a lot, you have to modify your goals. What helps in writing the goals and starting, as Michelle said, with small steps, is that these change over time. And then you can see over time how much you've changed, how much you've grown. Take it a step further as you work on this, share it with someone. And that person is working on goals too. You support each other, reinforce each other's goals. Having a buddy like that is very helpful to all of us. And no matter what age we are, it's having that social support, someone you could do it with, helps you even more.
I think that part of social accountability and having others help you be accountable for your goals is something I've noticed in myself. For example, I always tend to not be the person that eats a lot of vegetables. So I tell my partner to remind me to do these things, and he'll make fun of me because I don't eat vegetables enough, but it's something that at least I have that other person to help me be accountable. Michelle, for people who want to keep learning after today, what are resources that are available from us here at the Alzheimer's Association?
So this year we have some new education programs focused around brain health. We offer several free resources, and one of those free resources is our core education programs. We have a topic called Building Brain Healthy Habits, which is a really great program that I'm constantly recommending to people. That is typically about an hour long. We also have a neat program that is a brain health awareness program, which can be hosted in about 15 to 20 minutes. These two programs are available in person and via Zoom at all of our chapters across the US here at the Alzheimer's Association. These are free programs that are available to anyone. We also have access to the Brain Health Habit Builder that we've been talking about today. That link is alz.org/habit builder, or you can visit alz.org/brainhealth to learn more about the 10 healthy habits and ways that are recommended to better support your brain health.
Yeah, thank you again, Dr. Perez and Michelle, for sharing your expertise and your story and reminding us that today's program was made possible with the support from Lantheus. My takeaway for today is that small everyday actions can support brain health at any age. If you have any questions about brain health, or if you're noticing changes in memory, thinking, or behavior in yourself or someone you know, it is important to talk to your doctor or healthcare provider. These changes can have many causes, including dementia, so it is important to get checked. But thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Perez and Michelle.
Thank you to the Alzheimer's Association. I'm so grateful for these resources and talks.
Thank you so much, everyone.